Okay, so let's get started. So we're let me try this again. My name is Allison from the Musicplay team, and I'll be moderating the webinar today, along with my colleague Danae, who's in the background. We'd like to welcome Stephanie Menefee today, who is going to talk to us about reaching our neurodiverse learners. If you have questions, please put them in the chat and we will collect them and then ask Stephanie at the end, but please don't be shy. Put those in the chat and we'll make time for that. So without further ado, you don't need to hear more from me. So Stephanie, please take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you, Allison. Hello, everybody. Hopefully if it looks like I'm not looking at you, it's because my video or my camera is on one screen and I'm going to move you all over to my other screen because I've got my sharing on the camera or the screen with the video. So give me just a second here to get this set up. There we go. All right. So I'm Stephanie Menefee. I am in my 25th year of teaching elementary music. I've done my whole career in Tacoma, Washington. The last 3 years, including this year, I have also been the district content lead for all of the elementary music teachers in Tacoma Public Schools. So with that, I help create our PDs and help run the PLCs and am kind of the go-between with the people who work downtown for our district and the teachers in the schools. Little on a personal note, my husband and I have 3 amazing children. Our oldest son is 19. He's a freshman in college. And then we have 13-year-old twins who are just about to be halfway through middle school. So they are just about halfway through 7th grade. My 2 sons, my oldest and my youngest, are both on the spectrum. And so you'll get to hear a little bit more about them a little bit later. And they are really what drives my passion for this subject and really working with our kiddos and what helps me be able to connect with those kiddos in my classroom on a daily basis. On another personal note, 2 weeks ago, I myself was diagnosed with ADHD. And I've been on meds about a week and a half, and the difference is amazing. So I am also more than happy to answer questions about that as far as how it makes me feel. If it's, questions that are there for a better understanding, ask away. So this first part here, getting to know you. So I'll introduce myself a little bit. What is your level of experience with teaching students who are neurodiverse? If you could, in the chat, just answer with a 1, 2, 3, or 4. 1 being little to no experience.
Oh,
2 being...
Stephanie, sorry, do you mind sharing the...
Oh my goodness gracious, yes, I can certainly do that. I totally forgot.
Thank you so much.
My apologies, everyone. How about that? Is that sharing? Is that the whole screen?
Brilliant, thank you.
Fantastic, I apologize. So 1, little to no. 2, some. 3, on the daily at school. 4, I live with it either myself or family members. Just kind of getting an idea of what people's experience is. Lots of 3s and 4s, a few 1s and 2s. And whatever your experience is, that's totally fine, because it is what it is. Give people another just a few seconds to answer or continue answering. Like it's slowing down. All righty. Fantastic. Lots of 3s and 4s. So a fair amount of experience on the whole. A few people who have just a minor amount of experience. And that, again, like I said, is totally fine. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Danae for the video, and I will see you all on the flip side of the video with a little more information. I'm going to stop sharing. There we go.
Hello, everyone, and this is Reaching Our Neurodiverse Learners.
So our focus for today is understanding neurodivergence, looking at what is autism. I'm focusing on autism because that's primarily what we are going to see in our classrooms as far as our mainstream kiddos go, and also as far as our maybe self-contained kiddos go. And a lot of what will work for our children with autism will work with people with other varieties of neurodivergence. We will look at our senses, and we will finish up with techniques for teaching. So neurodivergence. The term neurodivergent describes people whose brain differences affect how their brain works. That means they have different strengths and challenges from people whose brains don't have those differences. The possible differences include medical disorders, learning disabilities, and other conditions. And this is from the Cleveland Clinic. So autism, as we probably all know, is a spectrum. Each person on the autism spectrum is unique. And I have two of my own children who are diagnosed as autistic, and they are very, very different. One is becoming a fully functioning independent adult. The other will probably never be able to live completely independently. There are many traits that are found among each person on the autism spectrum. How these traits present is going to differ from person to person as far as intensity and just how it presents. So things like sensory issues are very, very common. People are either oversensitive or undersensitive to different sensory input. There's usually a combination of oversensitive and undersensitive across all modalities. ADHD is usually present as well. There's three different types of ADHD. There's inattentive, there's hyperactive impulsive, and there's combined. A lot of times, and this is especially true with my own two kids, they may appear to not be listening, but in reality they are. I have a third grader who doesn't look like he's paying attention, but I asked him a question about something and he answered and he knew what he was talking about, and it was amazing and I was blown away. So be aware of that they might not be giving you what looks like focused attention, but they actually are listening. And there's a saying that each person is unique. If you've seen one person with autism, you've seen one person with autism, and we're going to see that presented many times during our session today. So think about how many senses do we have? And yes, leading you into this is kind of a trick question. We know we have our primary five: sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. However, there's more. We also have proprioceptive and vestibular, as well as many others, but the other two that come really into play here are the proprioceptive and vestibular senses. Proprioceptive is how we know where our body is in space, how much pressure you're putting on something. Are you pushing up against something? Are you touching something? And vestibular is balance. So for example, my younger son can spin and spin and spin and spin and spin. You know, those little spinny chairs that they have at the park where you can get in and just spin and spin and spin and spin. And people get off and they fall to the ground because they're super dizzy. He gets out and he walks a perfectly straight line like he wasn't doing anything. And that's a fun party trick. I'll tell you that as a parent. It's a fun party trick. All right. Things that we can do to help all of our students be successful. We can manage, miss, move on. And so what that looks like is deciding when to deal with a behavior or something, how to deal with it, and then what do we do? So letting the students be themselves, but monitor, kind of keep it in the peripheral vision. I've heard this also referred to as lifeguarding. The lifeguard kind of scans the pool and keeps track of what all is going on, but they don't necessarily act unless it's really super necessary. When you call kids on behaviors, be clear, be fair, be firm, and always, always, always give them the opportunity to try again. How can we fix this? How can we make this better? Not every behavior that we see from our kids is willful, but every behavior is based in communicating a need, whether that student can put those needs in words or not. Being predictable in your classroom environment. Things like having assigned seats, having a set routine, letting your students know what they can expect from you so that it's a more comfortable environment for everybody. This works for everyone, not just our neurodiverse, neurospicy kiddos. I'm going to be using the term neurospicy throughout this presentation. It's kind of a colloquialism for that goes along with neurodiversity and neurodivergence, and it does not have negative connotations at all. So as someone who is neurospicy, I think it's kind of a fun description of my brain. So with seating, be thoughtful and intentional about who students sit next to or near. I have, again, third graders who, I've got one kiddo who really, really struggles. And one of the girls, he was not here when we did new seats for this trimester. And one of the girls in his class said, "Can he sit next to me?" And I said, "Are you asking that because you would like to help him?" She said, "Yes." And so I absolutely made sure that that happened. And she is so good with him and is very helpful and very understanding and very patient. Keeping with your routines. I started this calendar year with, this is what we're doing. This is what my class is going to look like. It's always been this, but I'm writing it down for you. Predictability. They know what to do. I have kids at the end of class who know, okay, it's time to stand up and turn so that we can leave. Other things that we can do to help all of our students be successful, incorporating a lot of movement, either locomotor or non-locomotor, throughout class time. This gives those kids who need the chance to move the ability to move in appropriate ways, in ways that are going to work for them and for others. Sometimes they do just need to sit. I get that. And if they're fidgeting but not bothering the people around them, I let it go. I don't demand perfectly still sitting. Keeping your body calm and in control and quiet and in control and out of other people's space is priority. Allowing multiple ways for participation. Sometimes kids just want to sit and watch. They're not comfortable getting up and moving. It's too chaotic. Sometimes they need to watch and see what's happening before they join in. Sometimes they might be, instead of doing locomotor movement, doing something non-locomotor in their space. They're still participating. One student I have, when we're doing our half note on our rhythm clapping, I have them go half note, and the student instead goes half note. Well, that's still 2 beats. That works for me. I'm not going to care. He's still showing me 2 beats for one sound. He's demonstrating it in his own way, and I'm fine with it. Setting up a variety of ways for them to be in their classrooms, in the classroom space throughout the class session. I will allow students to, if they need to get up and move, go to the back of the room or the side of the room where they can still see and be fully participatory, but stand if they need to and move a little bit if they need to, because it's something that they need to do and they're not being disruptive to their classmates. With my youngest, he had a spot that was kind of in a corner. He could get up, he could stand. He had that freedom of movement. So having the some flexibility in where kids are and how they are, and being aware of where those kids are and giving them the ability to easily shift to that new space. Having tools easily available, things like headphones. I've got a couple of sets of headphones in my room that kids can use if they need to. Wiggle cushions. I've got a couple of these. They're pokey on one side and just a little bit bumpy on the other. They're not completely full. It gives the student the ability to wiggle a little bit with their body, but it contains it to their body. I also have in my lovely tub that I got from my OT here at school years ago, a weighted lap pad. And I had a kindergartner, or a TK student come in earlier this week. He was the leader, the line leader, and he thought that meant he could sit on number 1 instead of his assigned number spot, and massive meltdown. And so I grabbed this. I grabbed the weighted lap pad and I gave it to him, and he immediately got calmer. It took him a little while to get completely calm, but within probably 15 minutes, he was willing to give it back to me, and he didn't need it anymore. It's helpful to have a protocol established for who gets to use them, how those get to use, and when students are permitted to use these tools. If kids are going to be up and moving around a lot, a wiggle cushion is probably not going to be a good idea because it's going to be in the way, unless there's an easy way for them to set it out of the way. Same thing with the lap pad. Headphones, they can wear with them. Sometimes I have kids come in with headphones. Some of these tools are at work. These photos are courtesy of my friend Laura Kexel, who teaches choir and orchestra at Kylo Middle School in Kent, Washington. I'm in Tacoma, Washington. This is Buzz the turtle. Buzz was named by Laura's son, Sean, who is pretty severely autistic. And you will get to meet Sean in a little bit here. And he's a great kid. He's a weighted turtle. Students use if needed. He gets passed around. You can see he can be used with stringed instruments, bowed stringed instruments, also with ukuleles. So he's small enough to set on a lap and not be in the way. And when I got to hold Buzz the first time, I tried to steal him. And Laura didn't let that happen, so I might just have to get my own. All right, another thing for helping our students be successful, allowing students to take a break and return as needed. That could be in your classroom. It could be in the hallway. It could be, all right, step out, take some deep breaths, get a drink of water, maybe put some water on your face. I don't have a sink in my room, so that's not something they can do here. But giving them the chance to step out, take a little private time, reset themselves, and then come back in when they're ready. Sometimes I have kids ask. Sometimes I offer. Sometimes I say, go outside and do this. Go outside and pull yourself together. Recognize the effort that these kiddos give. It can be so difficult for them to even just exist in our classrooms. Our classrooms have so much different sound in them, and it can be a lot. It can take these kiddos years to be able to participate fully alongside their peers, and sometimes they never get there. It took my younger son, Jackson, until 4th grade to be able to get up and participate in a program with his peers, with his classmates. He wasn't able to do it. His first time getting up and performing with a performance group in front of an audience was a gigantic go big or go home moment, because he was in my choir and we were singing the national anthem at our AAA baseball game. And he decided he wanted to do that with us. I gave him the option of staying behind with his friends' parents. And he's like, nope, I want to come with you. And he came out and he stood with us. And by golly, he sang, "Go big or go home, kid." It's amazing. But he still has trouble with other things. He gets up he holds the trumpet. He doesn't play the trumpet, but he holds the trumpet. And he gets up there and he kind of goes through the motions. But he's not actually doing it. But he's doing it in a way that is comfortable for him. This is so important for everyone. Each day is a fresh start. I know we all have bad days. For those of us who are neurospicy, those bad days can be even more intense. And saying, okay, this was out. If it's out of the norm, next time's a fresh start. Girls present differently. There's a lot more identification of girls both on the spectrum and with ADHD.
This is from a conversation of a mom of a fantastic young lady who has autism. Girls tend to mask. What that means is they hide their symptoms or how those symptoms may manifest in order to be more socially acceptable. Stimming, fidgeting could be more quiet. They could just completely squash the urges to do those. They may observe and try to mimic. So watching how people move, what people do with conversational conventions, learning how to reciprocate. It's not natural. It's very scripted oftentimes. Girls may freeze when they're not masking until they figure out what they're doing. We've heard of fight, flight, or freeze. There's also fawning, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But girl is in a situation, she doesn't know how to deal with it. She's just going to stop. She could stop and observe and kind of figure out how to interact, how to engage in a way that might not be considered weird. And so it might take a little while. They may agree with everything so as not to be perceived as a problem. This is fawning. They may fake it to either hide or to fit in. They can very easily be the target of bullying because they don't have a lot of friends, and they may, present in ways that are odd, and then the other kids, as we all know, kids are mean, and so these girls can be or probably have a higher incidence of being bullied as a result. They also may not share problems. Part of that could be because they don't want to be seen as a problem. It also could be that they don't recognize that they are having a problem. Oh, this is just the way it is. Why should I worry about this? This is what I'll go back. There we go. Autism at home. This is my son, Owen. He is 19 and a freshman at the University of Washington, Tacoma. He's amazing. This is Jackson. He is currently in 7th grade. We got him moved a year ago into the self-contained class at his school. He has thrived since we did that. Owen was diagnosed with Asperger's when he was 5. He would now be considered a level 1. Jackson is level 2 on the autism spectrum. This picture was taken on the day he went to 5th grade camp a couple of years ago. He had a blast. There were challenges he couldn't overcome, but his classmates were wonderful and super supportive of him. This is Sean, and I mentioned Sean earlier. This is my friend Laura's son. He's just wonderful. They have come up with between all 3 of these boys, they have come up with a wide variety of terms for new things or new terms for things. Sean came up with scuba-dooar, which is his word for thingamajig. Jackson has talked about the top train, which would be a monorail. Owen would call things, there's like a step tool instead of a step stool. Not wrong. Absolutely not wrong. Or when I was knitting, I knit, and he would call it rowing because he would ask me something. I'd say, let me finish this row. So it became rowing to him. What do we as parents want you to know? Our kids are completely capable. They just might not look like the other kids when they're doing things, having their own ways of doing things. Many parents are open to questions being asked for better understanding. I am one of those parents. You have a question about my kid that's going to give you better understanding of my kid? Ask. Be sensitive to how he perceives the world, how either one of them perceives the world. Ask. We're open to talking about it. We're open to sharing about our kids and how they manage the world. Be patient with our kids. Please, please, please be patient with our kids. They may need a few tries to get started on something that they are doing, or to be able to respond verbally. Don't expect an immediate response. The auditory processing time can be extended because of how they understand language, process it, and then have to formulate a response. So that can take a little extra time. Again, processing time is probably going to be a little bit longer for things. Give them that time. I do that with all of my kids. I give them a direction. I give them a reasonable amount of time, a handful of seconds to process and get it done. And if I see them doing it, fantastic. Some of them get started a little later than others, no worries. Then after what I determine would be a reasonable amount of time, I may give a student who needs another reminder, hey, what did I ask you to do? Can we do this, please? And they may have gotten stuck. And sometimes that's just the little prompt that they need to get unstuck. Our kids are so much more than their diagnosis. Please get to know them for who they are. They are some of the most fantastic people on the planet. And you will absolutely get a different perspective on things. Jackson talks about, instead of it needs to stop raining, the rain needs to go back up. He is a whiz with the planets, the solar system, outer space. He can tell you the states in alphabetical order. This kid does the state puzzles with putting the states in an alphabetical order. And I just stand back and I watch him in complete awe. Owen, we couldn't do the Where Is It books because we'd look through them and he'd find everything and then he'd remember exactly where they were after one time through. Just the way that they view the world is incredible. Sean, another one of Laura's and my friends, was going through breast cancer treatment, and she was going through chemo, and she lost her hair, and Sean saw her and he said, forehead all over. Well, yeah, absolutely. Forehead all over. And our friend Tracy thoroughly appreciated that. She is a special education teacher, so she gets it. And it's one of our favorite things with Sean is, forehead all over. Please, again, I said this earlier, don't assume that every behavior is willful. Behavior is communication. What is the child communicating through their behavior? Are they overloaded? Are they overwhelmed? Are they stuck? Are they agitated? Take a look at what their behavior is saying and try to get to the bottom of it. Be flexible. It's totally the name of the game with our kiddos, is being flexible. It's something that they have trouble doing. They get so ensconced in their own routines that they can't be flexible. New routines, changes in routines, return to old routines can be very, very difficult for these kiddos. So please give them flexibility and love. One of the things I haven't talked about, and we'll do once we end this part of the presentation, is talking about the difference between meltdowns and tantrums. And so a meltdown is basically a release of just overstimulation. Think of it like a volcano or an earthquake releasing that pressure from underneath the earth. And then once it's done, it's better. A tantrum is an attempt to get to an end, trying to get something. trying to get, well, I want this, so I'm going to have a tantrum. I'm going to have a fit until you give it to me to placate me. Meltdowns cannot be stopped by placating the child. Tantrums can. The phrase that I use in my house, and it's worked really well for me for the past almost 20 years, is let me know when you get it out of your system, and then we can talk. And that's either letting them work through it, letting that pressure release, or letting them realize, oh, I'm not going to get what I want, so I'm just going to stop. And we'll talk about, because I'm running out of time on my recording here, so we'll talk a little bit about how you can tell the difference easily. So each child is unique. To close up, when you've seen one person with autism, you've seen one person with autism. There are definitely things that happen consistently among students with autism. There are other things that are going to be unique in that particular child. The social, not really getting how to be social, not understanding how what they're doing impacts others around them. Some kids are hyper aware. Some people are hyper aware. Some people are not aware at all. So each person is unique. Well, you can't be autistic because you're not like this. Nope. No. Everyone is different. Just like everyone in the world is different. Every person with autism is different, and it presents differently. And they are each a unique individual who you really, I think, will enjoy once you get to know them. So we will stop the recording now and go to questions, comments, and connections. Before we do that, So thank you again for your time today. And please feel free to reach out to me. There's my contact information with my school email address. And again, I'm more than happy to answer questions for you and help you get a better understanding. And so at this point, we will stop the recording and go back to being live.
All right, so I'm going to share the screen over here. Give me just one moment. There we go. All right, and now I need to take, and this is the challenge with Zoom for me is I'm not used to using it. And I had the same issue last time, so I can't see you. I can see the chat. So approaching a music program for neurodivergent children. Jules, do you mean with them mixed in with neurotypical children, or do you mean, are you referring to students who are mainstreamed or students who are self-contained class? Because that's going to somewhat change how I answer the question. In a special class, self-contained. Okay. I'm gonna push a button here. Oh, hey, look at that. That works. Cool. Paula, I will get to yours in just a second. So self-contained, when I have had the self-contained classes, we have a very set routine of things that we do. I do it a little bit differently. Sometimes it's been music through literature and books that they can sing along with. Pete the Cat's a great example. Wheels on the Bus, things like that. And in Musicplay, there's a lot of options for books that we can use. I've also done a lot through Go Noodle with getting them up and getting them moving. I had a class several years ago that was self-contained who we did the duck song, and it got to the point where we would act it out. And I was the guy at the lemonade stand, and it was just a blast. So several different ways of doing that, finding things that work for you and for them. Um, so, Paula, I actually saw this yesterday and printed it up. So a 1 is, so the severity. So there are 3 levels on the autism spectrum for the DSM-5.
Stephanie, sorry to
Yes.
interrupt. Do you mind? I think Paula might have messaged you in a chat directly to you. Do you mind reading the question for us?
Oh, that was a direct message. How many numbers are there on the autism spectrum, and what is a 1 and a 2? That is a direct message. Thank you. I didn't realize that.
It's all good. There are so many avenues.
Yeah. So the DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And the DSM-5, which is the 5th iteration of this, came out in 2013. And so autism spectrum disorders, it says A, persistent deficits in social communication and social interaction. B, restricted repetitive patterns of behavior, interest, or activity. So that's above where the 3 levels are. So severe would be a level 3, requiring very substantial support. That Sean is a level 3. My friend's boy Sean is a level 3, absolutely. Severe deficits in verbal and nonverbal social communication, severe impairments in functioning, very limited initiation of social interactions, minimal response to social overtures from others, restricted behaviors. So those are the social deficits. And then the restricted behaviors, inflexibility, words are hard sometimes, sorry. Inflexibility of behavior, extreme difficulty coping with change, restricted or repetitive behaviors markedly interfere with functioning in all spheres of their life. Great duress or difficulty in changing focus or action. Moderate is a level 2. Jackson, my younger one, will qualify as diagnosed as level 2, requiring substantial support. Marked deficits in verbal and nonverbal social communication, social impairments apparent even with supports in place, limited initiation of social interactions, reduced or abnormal responses to social overtures from others. And then for the restricted behaviors, inflexibility of behavior, difficulty coping with change, restricted or repetitive behaviors appear frequently enough to be obvious to the casual observer and interfere with functioning in a variety of contexts, and then distress and or difficulty changing focus or action. And then mild, which is level 1, and that defines Owen, requiring support. Without supports in place, deficits in social communication cause noticeable impairments. Difficulty initiating social interactions, clear examples of atypical or unsuccessful response to social overtures of others, may appear to have decreased interest in social interactions. And then for the restricted behaviors for level 1, inflexibility of behavior causes significant interference with functioning in one or more contexts, difficulty switching between activities, problems of organization and planning hamper independence. So that's kind of how the different levels are determined, how much support the individual needs. Like I said, Owen is going to be a fully functional, independent adult. Jackson will have a modicum of independence, but he's probably never going to be able to live completely independently, either with my husband and me or with his brother or his twin sister. As he gets older, he will probably never drive. He will be one of those kiddos who does the community-based transition program here after he graduates from high school in 2030. And then Sean will always need full support for things. There are some things that he can do independently, but not a lot. Olivia, I have a few chairs in my room for students who need them as an anchor. I also have fidget toys. Every class, students complain that other students get chairs and fidget toys. I usually tell them that's between me and the students and their parents. Is there a better way to approach this? I would maybe equate them to students wearing glasses. Not everybody needs glasses. Or, there are some people who are hard of hearing or deaf, and they need assistive devices for that. And it's along the same lines. Or people who need other accommodations for mobility. So that could be a way to approach that. I had a student many years ago who had hearing aids. She was in kindergarten. Her class was curious. They asked, I said, it's like eyeglasses for her ears. And they were fine with that. Not everybody needs those accommodations. And it helps them to be able to better participate in class and better be focused and be more successful. Do you have suggestions for including kids who have vocal tics or other noise-making impulses during music class? It's not fair or realistic, correct, to require them to stop, and sometimes their classmates can't manage to listen past the extra sounds. The extra sounds can absolutely be distracting, and that's something that my son Jackson is doing, and it makes things really difficult. I try to ignore, but there are some times where, like, I'm trying to have a conversation on the phone and he just needs to either go to a different room or quiet down, and sometimes that's really hard for him to do. Just try to teach your students how to be understanding that this is not something that this student is doing on purpose. They're not doing it with the intent of being disruptive or distracting. And yeah, it is. But sometimes if you just don't pay attention to it, it'll have a better chance of going away on its own. That is especially true with Tourette's, which if a person who has Tourette's is trying to hold their tics in, that's just going to make them worse. So you'll let those tics go. That's a tricky one if you're trying to teach, but also trying to just breathe through it, lead as an example, and try to be patient. It's hard sometimes. I totally understand that. I find myself doing that when they are stimming and vocalizing. Are they processing information? Quite possibly. Our classes ignore that. Yep, they don't draw attention, but at times we have to stop for listening's sake. Yeah, Catherine, that is a great solution to it. Yes, sometimes it does need to be quiet. And they very well could be processing the information or doing things to keep their mind, to activate parts of their brains that need to be activated so that they can actually listen and pay attention, which seems a little counterintuitive, but sometimes it works. The brain is fascinating.
All right. And I have a couple of questions here, Stephanie, if you're
Sure.
I don't know if you have any others from direct messages, but are there any particular activities on Musicplay Online for our Musicplay Online teachers here that you recommend more than others to really engage your neurodivergent students? And I'm not talking in the sense of, division, but more just like classroom activities for everyone that are particularly engaging.
Right. Some of it depends on how those kiddos can be, what their interests are, how their processing is, what they need. That is, let's see, my preschool class, they love the storybooks. We do the welcome song from the TK or from the pre-K. We've got a few songs, just finding the songs that they like. And those can be anywhere. We do Itsy Bitsy Spider, we do Elephants Have Wrinkles, we do One Green Jelly Bean. We do Sleepy Bunnies, which they all absolutely love. And 3-year-olds doing Sleepy Bunnies is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious and wonderful and sweet. And it's one of my favorite times. So finding things that they respond to, and some of that can be just trial and error.
Perfect, thanks.
All right, and I'm looking back to the chat. Consistently plays the recorder incorrectly, haphazardly, maybe mainly due to lack of fine motor skills. So Colin, there are some ways I've seen people do like a ring around the hole to give them a better idea of where that hole is. Finding ways to adapt the recorder, maybe covering the thumb hole, which takes you until you get to high C sharp and D, or the half holes. So covering the back hole could be a way to have one less thing for that student to focus on. And with that, I just maintain the same. I maintain the same expectations. The student is doing their best for me. As long as my students are doing their best, I don't care. I'll work with them to make their best better. I may see if I can, offer to help them with covering the holes by putting my fingers on top of theirs, things like that. If that student can stop when it's time to stop and play when it's time to play, that might be the best approach. I'm thinking about Jackson and the trumpet. He can buzz, he can get a sound out of it, but he does not have the manipulation of the keys. Trying to think. Yeah, that one's tricky, and also partly depends on the kid and what they're doing and what they are capable of doing. Sharon just put in there a Nuvo recorder. Yeah. Stephen sent directly. Can you talk about the fourth one? Flight, fight, freeze, and did you say fawning? Yes, I did. I will get to that in just a second. What is fawning, and how do neurodivergent students fawn differently from the students who aren't neurodivergent? So fawning is being overly agreeable. It is thinking that if they just don't take a preference to things, or something like that, and just being overly agreeable, so as not to cause a problem, even if expressing an opinion or saying, hey, I'm not quite sure about this, wouldn't be a problem, then that would be considered fawning. And I think differently would be more so fawning differently from students who aren't neurodivergent would be just more with how often it happens. Frequency. There's the word I'm coming up with. So Stacy's putting some great stuff in for recorders. Substitute teacher now. Many of these students find it hard to deal with a change of teacher, even for one class. Do you have suggestions or strategies on how to reassure these students? When Owen was in daycare, the only time he ever got in trouble was when his teacher wasn't there. And he consistently, every time his teacher was gone, he got in trouble. just be kind, be patient. Don't necessarily get on those kids. Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes you come in as a substitute and you don't know what the norm for a student is. And it could look like they're being, I don't want to say disobedient, but not following directions. And teachers who don't know these kiddos and are not accustomed to recognizing it, can be a little more harsh, strict with those kiddos, and it can be a bad thing. Just be kind, be patient, potentially watch how the rest of the class is working with that student. Pay attention if what the student is doing seems to be a deliberate thing or not, if they are aware of it. So somebody just posted, I have a problem with familiarity and routine with my ADHD. Yep. I want to know what's going to happen beforehand. And hopefully the teacher leaves enough of this is how we do things in the room, that at least is familiar to the student. But that can be hard. And again, just be patient, be kind, be calm, use your best observational skills, and be just the best, what's the word I'm trying to come up with here? Have the best intentions at heart with those kiddos. And once you kind of know what you're looking at and what you're working with, I say my spidey senses tingle. I was observing in a classroom last year, and there was a student who, over the half an hour that I was in that classroom, was like, yep, this kid's spicy. This is what I'm noticing them doing. And so I approached them in a different way. And it worked. And so are they finding, ways to kind of determine, are they finding routines and things? Are they finding patterns and things? Are they taking things very literally? Oh, that literal bit is so key. I was telling Danae and Allison before we came on here about one time where my son Owen needed to apologize to my husband for something, and he just turned in sorry. And I said, Owen, you need to go tell daddy sorry to his face. Owen was probably 4 at the time. And Owen goes out and looks at my husband and says, sorry to your face. And I collapsed on the bed, busting up laughing because it was the funniest thing. Because I wasn't expecting it. People who get it, yes. Looking at iPad 7 again, or iPad again, yes, absolutely. People who get it, it's a world of difference when people understand your kids, or when you can understand the kids, or when they can understand you. It's so much better, so much easier. Katie Jo, reading what you've put up there. Grayson, thank you. That helps. What to say to get the process started. It helps the sub of my kiddos. Yeah. As a teacher, that's something that we can do, is leave detailed sub plans. I am fortunate that I have a few subs that are my go-tos, and they are basically perma subs in the building. They are here frequently enough that, oh, Mrs. Lentz is coming, and the kids are all like, oh, cool. And so they know her, she knows them. She knows how things work around the school. She subs in many, many classrooms. I've got about 3 subs that I call on the regular to come and sub for me. And they know the kids and they know my routines, and it's nice and easy. I hate that, Grayson. It's frustrating sometimes. I did say that I was going to talk a little bit about tantrums and meltdowns. So again, what I say with my kiddos, and I did this starting when Owen was really little, was let me know, get this out of your system. Let me know when you're ready to talk. And that has served me, like I said, really, really well. A tantrum, I don't want to do this. I'm going to cry and pitch a fit, and I'm going to watch you to see how you are responding to me. And if you give me what I want, then I'm going to stop. And that's a big old no-go. I ignore those. I kind of observe a little bit, keep my ears open, scan the room, do a quick check on that kiddo. A meltdown can be more difficult. I used the weighted lap pad with my TK. TK is transitioned to kindergarten, so they are 4-year-olds turning 5 this year, and they will be kindergartners next year. I offered him the weighted lap pad. He took it, and he was fine with it. So I told you all that I tried to steal Buzz. This is my not stealing Buzz. This is a Highland Coupe. I got him last week. My choir helped me name him. I told them the story of Buzz. This is Fuzz. And together they are the Bros, which I think is horribly geeky and totally hilarious. And I crack myself up, and I don't care if you're laughing with me or not, because if you're not laughing with me, you're wrong. Just joking. But still, the Bros, Buzz and Fuzz. And this is Fuzz. And he's weighted. He's got weighted legs, a weighted belly, things like that. Amazon, Sharon, I got him on Amazon. He is 4 pounds, roughly 2 feet long, and so he can set on a lap. Again, same basic dimensions as Buzz. He's fuzzy. He's soft. He's awesome. He sits on my piano. I've not really taught kids how to use him yet, but he's there. Let's see. We've got
Stephanie, I just want to give you a heads up. We only have 2 minutes left.
Yep, I was just looking at that.
Oh, perfect.
I'm on it. So next steps for you all who are here. Think about a student in your classroom. Think about what you have learned here today, and what strategies, what things can you put into place that might help that student. And if you're helping that student, you're going to help others. A thing to remember is nothing that I shared with you will work for everybody. But everything I shared with you will work for a few students at least. So things like having the set routine, that is something that will help everybody, neurodivergent, neurodiverse or not. Being patient, giving that little bit of wait time and processing time helps everybody. Some kids just take a little bit longer to process. Nothing wrong with that. Thoughts are coming into my brain and then they're leaving. So if you have other questions, my district email address, So this is my school email address. You are welcome to reach out to me. I will be more than happy to help you as needed. Keeping things quiet, responding to Grace in here, keeping things quiet, calm as much as possible is a very big benefit. I've got my 1 3rd grader who is not going to be able to manage some of the things that we're doing for our program. So I've told him his job is when we're doing those things to watch what his class is doing. And he's going to be an extra set of eyes for me. And he's going to help help me see if everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. Does it look together on things? And he's like, yeah, I can do that. He's not going to make it up on the risers. He's not going to make it to the performance. But he can do this in class and be successful and still be part of it. So
All right,
Cindy.
perfect.
Yep.
No, yeah, feel free to respond to this, and then I was just gonna close up for the day.
So Cindy, even if they are just enjoying it, even if they're not singing out loud, if they're finding ways to participate in their own way, even if it's nonverbal, I'd still go with it and keep the routine as stable as you can. Keep the routine as predictable as you can, because they really thrive on that. And maybe eventually they will start doing something to participate. Again, they take their time, they do it on their own timeline, they do it in their own way. That would be my suggestion on that. Find ways that they can participate, even if they're just like my preschoolers, if they are on their carpet squares, awesome. And looking up at the board and taking it in that way, awesome. So that's what I would do.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for such a great webinar.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for attending. We are really enjoying our 2025 series, season, whatever you'd like to call it, of our webinars. If you'd like to attend another one, our next one is February 19th, I believe, on drum play on Musicplay Online. So we look forward to seeing you then. But thanks again, Stephanie, and everyone.